It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, welcome into the Voice of Reason. Can you believe it is a Thursday already? The pre-Friday celebration has begun. Good Thursday morning. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier. It is an honor to have you along. Hailing from Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker KQAM, broadcasting all across the Mid-America Network, all across the entire state of Kansas and beyond, along with KGPT TV, channel 2610. Good morning. Welcome aboard. So much to get to today. There's always so much news that's happening on every single day. I don't know why it wouldn't just want to slow down for a little bit. I'd love to hear a newscast one day where you turn on the TV either in the morning or in the night, and you're watching the news trying to figure out what's going to happen in the world, and they say, you know what? Nothing's happening. There were no bad guys that did anything bad last night. There's nothing bad that's happening in the world right now. Go out, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Wouldn't you love that once in a while? At the same time, human beings are drawn to drama. Human beings are drawn to, I almost want to say, bickering, or the hen house. Gotta bicker about everybody. Gotta have the drama behind everybody's back. Gotta talk about everybody. Gotta trash talk. Have to criticize. Have to judge. We're drawn to it. We love it. We love to be able to be drawn to the drama that is a confrontation. I, for one, as you know, talking politics for 3 hours on the radio a day, I love confrontation myself. I love debating. I'm still waiting for a solid, substantial debate from somebody because I have not had one in a really long time. I love debating. I love that confrontation. I love that arguing and that bickering. I love it. I get drawn to it. That feeds me. That fuels my tank to understand somebody else's point, to counter their point, and to try and debunk it and have someone say, you know what, I concede, I throw in the white towel because I can't deal with it any longer. We are drawn to drama in that sense. But last night, I've never seen so much hate, so much vile disgust, so much trash talk, so many personal attacks than I've ever seen in my entire life. We have to congratulate Governor Sam Brownback to the new position that he has as the ambassador for the ambassador at large for international freedom, international religious freedom. His confirmation happened yesterday. Now, I tried to watch part of this, and I was watching the video from the Senate floor live. And first off, we need to seriously work on the process of how the Senate and Congress actually does their job, because it is the most absurd process I've ever seen in my entire life. I was watching it for literally 2 hours, and I still did not get to see the vote live. I was ready. I was recording. I wanted to get the audio of it. I wanted to get the final, bam, there it is. Vice President Mike Pence coming out saying that he's going to do the tiebreaker, because you knew that was going to happen. And we'll get to that in just a second. But I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And they had so much time to where they had to end the debate and take it over to the cloture, where they end the debate and take it on to the end of the discussion, let's say, and then they take it on to the vote. They did vote for that, and that's when I tuned in. Then you see at the bottom of the video feed that says, oh, pending item, the approval of. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. About 20 minutes goes by, and then they say, okay, you know what? We're gonna start doing a roll call, and we're going to allow some senator to speak. And then a senator gets up, and instead of actually talking about that issue or voting on that issue, then they stand up and they start talking about global warming and offshore drilling for 15 minutes. And that was the time that was allotted to them. And then they get done. And then there's about 20 minutes of dead silence. And then Mitch McConnell stands up and says, oh, you know what? I think that we should move forward, and we should vote on this for Sam Brownback, and then we should let the president know, and then we should start moving on to the next approval or confirmation of another pick and nomination from President Trump and who he's picked for another position. And they approve it, and then it's quiet for about 20 minutes, and then another senator stands up and starts talking about North Korea for 15, 20 minutes. And it goes on and on and on. And I don't, maybe I just haven't been in government. I just don't understand that process. But it's the most absurd thing. If you're going to vote on something, then frickin' vote on something and have it be done, move on to the next agenda, and then go on about your business. No wonder why we have wasteful spending at the federal level, because their process, they drag things out so badly and so inefficiently. And then they try and catch you off by talking about something completely off topic to try and catch whoever's in the room. And it's funny when you watch the video, if you watch any of these, because a senator stands up to do a presentation, and they got the boards, and they're showing all the graphs, and they're showing all the charts, and they're showing everything. And as they do that, all the senators just leave the room. It's empty. The only people that are in there are the people that are recording it, and just a few people at the front just kind of walking around doing their business. That's it. No one's listening to the presentation. And then the presentation's done, and then everybody floods back in, and they're chatting, and they're moving around the room, and they're doing their thing, and then they do a roll call vote, and everything's fine, and then someone stands up and does another presentation, and boom, they're gone. Which makes you think, for one, that when you do a presentation and you're trying to urge someone to vote one way or another, it's not going to be done on the floor the way it should be. It's actually being done behind the scenes on how you sway them and how you encourage them to be able to support your cause. We have a lot of shenanigans that we need to work on within the government and how Congress actually does its job. But that's another discussion for another time. I just found that quite ironic as we're trying to look for the confirmation of Governor Sam Brownback. And it happened last night. It was an exciting thing. We should be proud. We should congratulate. And I've never seen, just like people are drawn to the drama, drawn to the bickering, drawn to the tension, I've never seen so much hateful, vile comments in my entire life. It was the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life. Scrolling through social media, scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Twitter, and as Governor Brownback had given his acceptance and his thanks for what happened, the vile, hateful comments of the simple bye-bye and see you later to you screwed up our state and you're the most terrible thing in the entire world. Look, you don't have to agree with Governor Sam Brownback. You don't have to like him. I disagree with a lot of things that he's done, especially lately, which really makes me sad. It kind of reminds me of like a Brett Favre or a Tiger Woods situation to where they had the potential to do very, very good things, and they've done great things, and they have that reputation, that legacy of standing for what they supported and what they fought for a really long time, or doing something really great and having that reputation to being that great athlete, and then they kind of stick around for too long, and then they start waning and start going downhill towards the end, and then that really gets compromised. It's kind of a bittersweet situation for me. I've really enjoyed Governor Sam Brownback for the most part on what he's done. Not everything, obviously. But then his State of the State address was a completely absurd, completely off the wall, completely out of left field. Where did that come from? Then we see the comments that he made actually yesterday as we're talking about CanCare 2.0, and we're going to talk about that later on as well. But the CanCare, no, you know what? We're not going to go forward with CanCare 2.0 because all of our money needs to be going towards education. That's the comment that he made yesterday, and it broke my heart because as we're excited to see him go off to another venture that I think this position is really tailored for him, with how much he takes his religion very seriously, with how much he understands religious liberty is so important for everyone, and how we don't have any kind of freedom if you don't have religious freedom to believe what you want to believe, or lack thereof. It doesn't really matter. But you have the right to do that, and he wants to fight for that, and how seriously he takes that. That I think this position is really tailored for him, and I am excited for that. But he's gone downhill in the last few months as governor, and it really breaks my heart to be able to watch that and see that, because I don't want to see that happen to him. But then you get the media that's reporting on this, and more vile, hate, non-journalistic, biased reporting. I've never seen anything like this directed towards one man except for maybe Donald Trump. Kansas Republican Sam Brownback, one of the most unpopular governors in the country. See, right there. Why do you have to put that in the article? This is about a confirmation for the ambassadorship. Why do you have to put in one of the most unpopular governors in the entire country? He's a terrible guy that everybody hates. I don't know why anybody likes him going off into another position, especially at the federal level with, but it makes sense because Donald Trump's hated, so therefore Governor Sam Brownback can be hated. And two hated individuals running the same type of government, running at the same federal level, and we can just hate them all together, right? And Donald Trump sure knows how to pick those terrible individuals. Kansas Republican Sam Brownback, one of the most unpopular governors in the country, barely survived a vote to confirm his bid for a big Trump administration job on Wednesday as Vice President Mike Pence broke two ties that kept the nomination alive. And he did. But it's not that big of a surprise. Do you really think that Democrats would have supported, first off, just a Donald Trump nomination for any position? It could have been dog catcher, and they would have blocked it because they said that the person that was actually going to take care of the dogs actually hates dogs, and therefore it was out to get the dogs because he's racist against the dogs or discriminatory against the dogs, and therefore because Donald Trump is a bigot and a discriminatory racist, and therefore the dog catcher would have been one as well, and they would have voted against it. You know that would have happened. They've tried to block every single nomination that Donald Trump has picked for any position. If you listen to the interviews that they did for Betsy DeVos for Department of Education, if you listen to the interviews that they did with Sonny Perdue for the Department of Agriculture, if you listen to Mike Pompeo's interviews for CIA director, over and over and over again, they have abused and beaten these individuals, not based on the qualifications they have for the position, but to their standards of those qualifications, because those standards of qualifications to them are, how are you going to support the big government and continue to allow these departments to grow, expand, and control the average day American on a daily basis? What are you going to do for that? And it was the most hate-filled arguments and questions that I've ever heard in my life. Lots more coming up. Got some calls on the line as well. Stay here. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Mid-America Network.
Listen up, farmers. If contacting your crop insurance agent isn't on the top of your to-do list, it should be. Proper risk management has never been as important as it is now in today's economic environment. Multi-peril crop insurance is all the same price. If you're not getting service for free, call P&B Insurance, the best crop insurance agent in the Midwest. P&B Insurance Agency, 1-800-722-9525. That's 1-800-722-9525. P&B Insurance. Hey, good morning to you. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Mid-America Network along with KGPT TV. Welcome aboard. Happy Thursday. This portion of the Voice of Reason brought to you by the Kansas Republican Assembly. It's that time. They have their monthly meeting, and now you have a voice if you're in the Wichita area and you want to hear about what's going to happen with Century 2. Are they going to knock it down? Are they going to build a bigger convention center? What's the plan? Now's your chance to learn about it. Now's your chance to ask those questions. Check it out tonight at the Kansas Republican Assembly. John D'Angelo going to be speaking as part of the city on his thoughts on the latest, and you have an opportunity to listen and ask questions. It's tonight, January 25th, 7 p.m. at the Golden Corral in the West Room at 616 South Ridge Road. The social begins at 6:30. The event starts at 7 o'clock. You're not going to want to miss it. The Kansas Republican Assembly, a meeting each month where you get to have a voice. You get to be involved, and you get to be educated on what's happening in our community and for statewide issues. Brought to you by the Kansas Republican Assembly. Check it out tonight, the Golden Corral, 616 South Ridge Road, with John D'Angelo being the special guest speaker there on the issue with Century 2. If you want to, by the way, with the farewell to Governor Sam Brownback, I posted this when he got nominated way back when, back in the fall. And I made up a little presentation of a thank you for the things that he has done. And again, I'm not saying that he has been the best governor. I'm not saying that I agree with every single thing that he has done, but I believe that he's done some great for our state, and we need to congratulate him and thank him for that. I whipped up a list, a bullet point list of a presentation on the things that Governor Brownback has done while in office that we need to be thankful for. And I did a thank you farewell to him. That's posted all over the Voice of Reason and my personal Facebook pages. If you go to facebook.com/Mid-America Reason, then you can find the thank you to Governor Sam Brownback. You can share that. I do appreciate that. If you like it, share it and spread that around, because one thing, I've mentioned it before, there are two things in politics that make you successful. One's a strong PR team and the other one's lots of money. And Governor Brownback, unfortunately, did not have a strong PR team for the majority of his tenure in the governorship. That's why his approval rating is so low. He did not have a PR team. He did not defend the actions that he was taking. He did not explain the things that he was trying to do very well. He did not have every response that he had from the media. He did not respond to them first off, and when he did, it was very lighthearted and because he's just a nice guy. He didn't want that confrontation. I, on the other hand, would have come out swinging at them when they tried to do that, as Donald Trump tries to do, but that's not Governor Brownback's personality, and that's why he's so low in the approval ratings for the governorship. But if you want to see that, if you're curious or if you want to support it, then you can go to Facebook, you can like it, you can share it, and you can have it as your own. Let's go to the phone, shall we? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Donna Leopold.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It's been my honor for the last 7 years to serve as the National Governor Prayer Team for Governor Sam Brownback. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you that this position that he just received, it was tailor-made for him. And I just hope everybody will pray for him as he impacts the world with the compassionate man that he is, and he will fight.
He
fight
will.
hard.
He is a fighter, and I mean, I love the fact that he was at the pro-life march that was just a few days ago up in Topeka.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, during governor, he's passed 19 different pro-life bills banning abortions for babies who could feel the pain, the banning of sex-selective abortions. I mean, the things that he's done that no one talks about, the media obviously doesn't cover, and a lot of even Republicans that don't like Governor Brownback just kind of look over. He's done some really, really strong, important things, and you're right. I mean, I think that this position, fighting for religious liberties, I mean, and the importance of religion all around the world, he is so passionate about that you're right. Maybe he wasn't fit to be the perfect governor, but this position I think he's going to do so well at.
Well, there are 17,000 fewer abortions in the last 6 years in the state of Kansas than the previous 6 years. But I disagree with you when you say that Governor Brownback wants to give more money to education. We have a broken Kansas Supreme Court. We had an opportunity, the people of Kansas had an opportunity in 2014 to vote them out, and they did not do it. It was 16, I think, that we could have. So this is our fault. It's not Governor Brownback's fault. He was very clear in his State of the State address that he was forced to give $600 million more to education by the Kansas State Supreme Court. He gave an example in the State of the State address that in Missouri, the biggest fiasco ever, they were forced to give $2 billion and the test scores went down.
Sure.
We know, you know, and I know that the superintendents got a 6% raise. Our teachers need a raise, but the system is broken.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's not Governor Brownback's fault.
Well, that's very true. And you're right. I mean, his hands are kind of tied for what he can do. And the fact that he knew that he wasn't going to be around, hopefully much longer with this nomination, this is up to the legislature now to draw that line in the sand and either challenge the Supreme Court to write that amendment to restrict the Supreme Court to throw us into a constitutional quote unquote crisis and ignore the Supreme Court. It's up to the legislature now. Governor Brownback's fought this battle for a really long time. And whether it was because he knew he was on his way out or there was nothing that he could do from his end, I didn't like the comment that he made at the State of the State, but I understand it because now the legislature needs to pick up that mantle and fight.
Right, and I do want to say, too, that this is going to be a very tough year in the legislature. I'm up there every week, and I just want these conservatives that listen to your show to step into the arena. We have got to get good conservatives to replace the rhinos that said that they were conservative. And so please encourage them.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for the phone call. Hate to cut you off. We got a break here, but absolutely, you're right on, spot on. Conservatives, let's rise up. Legislatures, elected officials, or just you and I as the activists, now's the time to make that change because no longer will we have the Supreme Court abuse us. I really appreciate that call very much. Bottom of the hour news coming up. This is The Voice of Reason.
Your home for entertaining radio.
This is your fault, too, man. I keep missing Rush Limbaugh's morning update every morning because I'm listening to your show.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
I guess that's a good way to start the day. What do you say? Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Happy Thursday morning. It's a pre-Friday celebration. Lots to get to today. A lot of fun we're having as we congratulate Governor Sam Brownback on his nomination. We'll talk about that again a little bit later. I do want to shift gears here for just a minute. Your thoughts and calls always welcome as well. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Yesterday, we had a little fun discussing women's rights, feminism, and the women's march that happened over the weekend on Saturday. I found it quite ironic that the media didn't want to report on the March for Life that happened in Washington, D.C. on Friday, or the March for Life that happened. At least the media somewhat covered the local March for Life, the pro-life walk in Topeka a few days ago. But they covered, boy, they love to cover the nationwide quote-unquote movement that happened with the Women's March. And we talked with the Independent Women's Forum, Carrie Lucas, that joined us on the show yesterday. We'll play that interview in just a minute. Let's go to the phones first, though, and take a phone call, shall we? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Hey, good morning, Scott. How are you?
Well, I think the state is doing a bad job as far as economic development for the people. They're not bringing very many jobs. I haven't heard of any real jobs coming to the state, especially here in Wichita. But they are spending a lot of money on prisons because they're doing a special kickback where they can make money on that rather than helping develop the city of Wichita or Kansas City or wherever and bring jobs here. I mean, they messed up on the Tyson chicken plant. And
well, I know
they should have had to do jobs.
Well, I agree. I think we should have definitely brought the Tyson plant. I agree with you there. I think that the state has tried, and I think we're starting to bring jobs back. But you're right. I mean, I read the story that U-Haul, with the U-Haul data with one-way travel for migration in the country, that we are actually number 38 in the country as a state for people wanting to move and migrate to the state of Kansas, which is unfortunate. And we need to look at bringing industry here, absolutely. And Scott, I appreciate that. I think that the state has done what they can. But then I think that what you mentioned and what we've talked about for a long time with taxes and regulations, it's very difficult to actually entice people to want to come here. Why? Because we have higher taxes and higher regulations. And we're doing the largest tax increase in state history is making some industry saying, wait a second, I don't know if I necessarily want to come to the state. And I mean, now I think that the prison's another discussion, whether you agree or disagree with that, and we will touch on that a little bit later as well. But talking about wanting to bring people here and increase our industry, have people actually want to move to the state of Kansas, we definitely need to find ways in order to do that, which goes into education, goes into higher education, goes into the opportunities, goes into the different traits that many individuals may or may not have, goes into many different factors. So I agree, Scott, and I appreciate that because that is a focus that we need to have. I know that one thing Governor Brownback again has done was appointed, and I can't remember her name right off the top of my head right now, that was part of the Department of Education, and now she's working with the Department of Commerce in order to try and link the two. How can we get educated youth to actually have traits that we want to have, to bring industry to Kansas, to create new industry in Kansas, and to make them maintain their status in Kansas and not want to leave? How do we educate them properly? Do we start focusing on the trade schools the way that we've seen the trade schools kind of boom across the nation, and we start trying to limit and push back a little bit on the the four-year state universities? Is that what we focus on? Is it now that we're starting to see Spirit Aerosystems want to invest money again, aviation's beginning to tick up? That was kind of out of our hands. That was a Barack Obama regulation saying that he didn't want a bunch of richie riches trying to pay for private planes. They didn't want people trying to buy airplanes for whatever reason. That was a regulation from Obama that's starting to go away, and now the industry's coming back. Oil and natural gas, another thing that Barack Obama hated with a passion, that was out of our control. The two largest pieces of industry that we have in our state of Kansas is agriculture and oil and natural gas, and then aviation coming in as number 3. And all three of those were affected by the national economy, not necessarily by decisions made by the state. And unfortunately, those all hit at the same time that Governor Brownback had done his tax decreases in his path to zero with wanting to do a massive tax cut in 2012. That was the same time that agriculture started going downhill. That was the same time that oil and natural gas prices started going downhill. That was the same time, I mean, we talk about farmers. They were coming in, raking in about $150,000 revenue at the end of the year as a profit, and now they're struggling to make $4,000 profit at the end of the year. That's not okay. That's not Governor Brownback's fault. That's not the Republicans' fault. That was the national economy and the Barack Obama economy's fault. And then we blame Governor Brownback for a failed policy and a failed Kansas experiment. That's just not the case. We need to look at this realistically. Now that this is starting to tick back up, we've seen record number closings for the stock market. We've seen the economy tick up. We have record unemployment rates for everybody across the nation, really. It's starting to go back down. Donald Trump's hyped up the fact that the African-American population has the record low unemployment rate right now. Women have a record low unemployment rate right now. If you want to break it down into different groups, which I don't like to do, but everybody's hyping it up to be, the economy's coming back. The economy's booming again. Things are happening. Now we do the massive tax cut and businesses are growing again. They've already given raises. They're already given bonuses. They've already given incentives. They're doing that, and that's going to affect us here in Kansas in a positive way. The question is, how long is that going to last? Because then we're going to turn around and try and kill off that incentive because we wanted to do tax increases and more spending at the state level. So that's what we're debating right now. That's what we're trying to go back and forth with, and that's why it's so important for conservatives right now in the legislature and outside of the legislature to stand up and say, wait a second, if you are going to turn around, raise taxes, raise spending, raise regulatory departments, increase the spending, increase the size of government, if you're going to do this at the same time we're seeing massive booms at the federal level, then you're not the brightest crayon in the box. Because you're going to kill off every incentive for individuals wanting to flourish in the state of Kansas, and then you're going to see more people continue to leave, and then you're going to say that it's the effects and the residual effects of the Brownback policies. Give me a break. 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, happy almost Friday.
Myron, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great as always.
Good.
Since you were shifting to the women's movement, I just wanted to share for those who may not have had a chance to hear Rush Limbaugh say it. He says he really enjoys the women's movement, especially from behind.
Well, and then we talk about the sexual harassment cases.
I know.
Then we talk about the sexual harassment case. No, look, and I don't know if I have time to play the interview now because I want to take some phone calls and talk about this a little bit. But the Women's March over the weekend on Saturday with the pink hats that came out, and we talked about this yesterday, but I don't understand the idea. And I mean, we've already had a female caller this morning, and if more women want to chime in on this, they're more than welcome to. But I don't understand how wearing the pink hats, I don't understand how marching and saying, I'm a woman, don't judge me based on being a woman, but you should know exactly what type of gender that I am, is helping the cause. I don't understand, and I know the last show prior, the First Light, where they kind of give the national news and stuff, they were talking about the Me Too movement, which I see is important, and I see the need to fight sexual harassment, in that whatever idiot doctor from, what was it, Michigan or Michigan State University, for the athletes and for the Olympics, and this guy who sexually harassed tons and tons of young women. It is a sickening issue that we have to address, and it's sad that individuals want to do that, because, again, it all breaks down to, this show's about common sense, reason, and normality, and that's not part of common sense in any way, shape, or form. If you have the absolute most basics of dignity in order to just treat somebody when you walk down the street or you see them at work, then we wouldn't have these problems. We wouldn't have to worry about it. Now I'm afraid it's taken it to the next level, as we talked with Carrie Lucas about yesterday, and the fact that nowadays they've taken it to the extreme to where the quote-unquote salary differences between men and women is now constituted as #MeToo movement of being discriminated against. Now it's when you have young kids actually wanting to flirt and trying to date and trying to ask each other out, the guy is very, very afraid to do so, because you just acknowledge the other girl of, hey, you got nice shoes today, or hey, you look really pretty today, or hey, did you do something to your hair? You changed your hair today. It looks nice. And just that comment itself is now derogatory and sexist, and now is a sexual harassment case waiting to happen. When did we get to the point to where now you're not even allowed to tell someone that they look pretty or look nice? I mean, when did we do that? When did we start saying yes, ma'am, now saying that you're supposedly coming on to them? It's a very scary situation in society today, because nowadays you're not even allowed to be cordial with one another. You're not allowed to give somebody a compliment without them taking it the wrong way, and it's kind of an odd behavior for some, but I guess that's the way society is today. So I like the Me Too movement. I like the way that we're actually trying to fight off creepers and sexual harassment, but at the same time, we need to have a little bit of due process here as well, to where not women can just automatically make a claim without any basis behind it, and then even if it's not real, then you just destroy the credibility of somebody just because you have the opportunity to do so for a personal vendetta or whatever. Let's go back to the phones again, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
This is Pete.
Pete, what's going on, sir?
Oh, not too much. Happy Friday Eve to you.
Happy Friday Eve. It's almost Friday, close enough, which means I think we can celebrate it as such.
There you go. I wanted to respond to one of your previous callers, Scott. He touched on something, and you did in your response, but I think you're kind of missing the point.
Okay.
He touched on bringing better jobs to Kansas. I can't agree with him more. Kansas is basically, two sectors, aviation and ag, and that's it. There's really not the diversity that there should be here to protect the economy should either one of those two sectors take a hit.
It's a great point. And the question is, why is that?
Well, and I'm going to get to that because you hit on it with all the added taxes and regulation. But it falls to the people. The people of Kansas elect these idiots in Topeka. They put these morons up there, and they run these taxes, and then everybody goes boo-hoo when they get these tax increases and these onerous regulations, but they never do anything about it.
It's a great point.
So this falls on the people of Kansas. Guess what, folks? You got the government you deserve.
Exactly. And then at the same point, I still think at the same point, then we need to look at the education to where we haven't allowed trade schools to grow and flourish as much as we potentially could have, whereas a state like Texas that has tons of trade schools was the number one state for 2 years in a row for people wanting to migrate there.
Well, and that's the other thing, if I had my druthers, I'd move the heck out of this state.
Sure.
When they pass that retroactive tax increase, you know what? That really just frosts.
It killed a lot of people.
If I could pack up and move, I'd be out of here.
I completely agree. Pete, I hate to cut you off, my friend. Got to take a break, but you're spot on. We elected these individuals to want to raise our taxes, and then we wonder why no one wants to move here.
Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
That's what we do on this show. Welcome back into it. Wrapping up hour number one already. This is the Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier. Welcome aboard on a pre-Friday celebration. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. I'm starting to think that, and with the conversation that Pete mentioned, which I appreciate very much as well, when it comes to industries, you're right, we have the opportunity. We have the opportunity. Now it's very difficult, and the state needs to give us that opportunity. The federal government needs to give us that opportunity. But when we talk about new industries coming in, we can be that welder. We can be that plumber. We can be that construction worker. We can be, look how many individuals have started their own construction companies. Look how many individuals have the opportunity. When I traveled through and I toured through the Hutchinson Corrections Facility, and I was up and I was looking at how things are done and looking at, the prison and how they operate. And the incentive programs that they have, and trying to get people back on track, trying to get their lives back on track, trying to make sure that when they get out, they don't come back in with the retainment rate, which, by the way, another success of Governor Sam Brownback, to where he even testified just last week or last couple of weeks up in Washington, D.C. on what we've done in the state with our corrections facilities in order for the federal government to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should look at that as an example for the rest of the corrections facilities across the country. Shocker, right? Governor Brownback doing something in another productive manner that no one gives him credit for. And it's something that we should be proud of. And when I toured through there, I was walking through the corrections facility and looking at and anything from the cells to the opened outside to the different jobs that they can do to so on and so forth. And they have classes there. And some of the classes they have are the trades. How to do basic plumbing. How to do construction work. How to do this. How to do that. They have those classes. along with the math and science and some of the other things as well to get your basic understanding. But I walked in and we sat there and watched a plumbing class as they talked about the tools to use. They had the things all over the side of the walls on how to build something, how to fix something, how to fix a pipe that may be clogged, how to set it all up, how to install it all. I saw it. Why don't we have more trade schools like that? I went to a broadcasting school. I went 2 years to a state university, realized it was ridiculous because I was spending a lot of money and I was not getting out of it what I needed to. And I just ended up leaving and going to a broadcasting school. Now look at what I'm doing. I found out exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what my career path needed to be, and I was going to fight tooth and nail to make that happen as much as I possibly could. I went to a broadcasting school, learned radio and TV on both sides. Never thought I'd be doing radio, or never thought I'd be doing TV. Now look what we're doing. Simulcasting on KGPT. You never know, but those trades come in handy. That's the opportunity that you get. If you want to become a welder, go to a trade school. You don't have to go to the 4-year state university mindset of going, sitting in class, reading more books, which, by the way, costs $500 for the book because the professor wrote it, and then he gets a new one every single year, and then he changes up a line of it so that way every new class can't just hand it down to the next one, but they have to purchase another $500 book. Are you kidding me? While you're getting your tenure and your salary and your bonuses and everything else as a liberal professor, and then you start teaching the kids not how to think, but what to think. And you start teaching them how the world is by sitting in a classroom reading a book. I'm not okay with that. And look, don't get me wrong. University is great. Many individuals need to go, depending on what profession you want to get into. You have to go sometimes. And with our K through 12 education, we should be giving you the basics of math, science, education, literacy, reading, yada, 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 in order for you to come out and be productive in society. And unfortunately, some are not. What's the stats that we read that close to 8 to 10% are actually college ready by their junior year? 8 to 10%? And you're going to tell me that for that senior year, that senior final year, when they're ready to get the heck out and just leave and be done with schooling, that they're all of a sudden going from 8% college ready to 100% college ready? Yeah. That's what we have to fix right now. That's what we have to do. We have to fix our K through 12. We have to stop the crazy Supreme Court. We have to prepare ourselves for all opportunities, and we have to allow the prospering of trade schools in the state, because that way we can bring in brand new industry. Pete is absolutely right. When we put all our eggs in one basket or two baskets, and I'd say three, I would say agriculture, oil and natural gas, and aviation, because there is a lot of drilling for oil and natural gas and fracking in the state. And with all our eggs in three baskets, but all three of them, by the way, all dependent on really the stock market and commodity prices. And when all of them go down, that's what we've seen the last few years. Not Governor Brownback's fault, not the conservative Republicans' fault, not the failed Kansas experiment. None of that actually happened. It was the outside markets that destroyed us because we don't have diversity in our industry and in our economy for the state of Kansas. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 2, The Voice of Reason, coming up in just a minute. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Great to have you along with KGPT, channel 2610 on your local cable in the area. No matter where you're listening, welcome aboard. Happy pre-Friday celebration. It's a big one. It's a good one. And we're excited about what's going to happen today. Lots to get to. Of course, the big news today is the official nomination of Governor Sam Brownback as the ambassador at large for international religious freedom. Some people say good riddance. I have to admit, and this really just, again, validates the point that we've been trying to make for a long time, that the progressives themselves are the most hateful, vile, angry individuals I've ever seen in my entire life. They say that talk radio is hate talk radio and that I'm a hate talk host and that I just spew hate every day. But I tell you what, go to Twitter, go to social media, go to Governor Sam Brownback's tweets from last night. Thank you, Senate GOP and Vice President Mike Pence, for supporting my nomination. Hashtag Kansas Leg. Here's another one. Thank you, President of the United States, along with Vice President Pence and all the senators who supported my nomination. I'm looking forward to starting my new position as ambassador and working hard for the American people and religious freedom around the world. Finally, again last night, he retweeted a pin, religious freedom is the first freedom, the choice of what you do with your own soul. I am honored to serve such an important cause. Go through those comments. Go through those remarks and opinions from individuals. There are a couple saying, hey, congrats, but very, very few. I've never seen so much hate, vile, disgusting remarks in my entire life, except for probably someone commenting on Donald Trump as a progressive. They say that we're the hateful ones. No, we're not the hateful ones. The progressive, I'm not saying party here, Republican or Democrat. I'm saying ideology. The people that despise conservatism, the individuals that despise Governor Sam Brownback as the failed Kansas experiment, which is completely untrue. We talked about it in the last hour. They are the most angry, hate-filled, bitter, disgusting individuals I've ever seen. And you can disagree with Governor Brownback. You can dislike him. I don't care. I don't agree with everything that Governor Brownback has done either. I am very upset with how he has kind of left the position of governorship, just because of the fact that we fought so hard over the last few years. We fought so hard to fight for conservatism, to fight for limited government, to try and fend off the Supreme Court the best that we can. And we had a caller last hour, and she was absolutely correct in the sense that we really chose this. We did not vote to kick out the Supreme Court justices in the 2016 election. We didn't do it. We should have. We tried. It's a very difficult thing to do, and we came very, very close. We came within 3 or 4 points during the election results for that, but we weren't able to push it over the edge. So we're stuck with the Supreme Court justices. Governor Brownback, I don't know if it was because he is on his last leg and he didn't have a whole lot left. I didn't know if he just didn't have the fight left in him for that. I don't know if his attention was directed elsewhere. I didn't know if his hands were just tied and said, I don't know. But his comments during the State of the State address saying that we're going to give that $600 million to the Supreme Court or to education via the Supreme Court, and that's what we're going to do, upset a lot of individuals. And the few conservative allies that he had left, he broke that bond. And I was upset about that fact. At the same time, when it really comes down to it, it's the Kansas legislature that actually needs to address the issue. They're the ones that need to stand up this year, not another year, not one more year. Not after the midterm elections, to play nice, not 2 years down the road, not after we've increased it by another $1.5 billion in education spending. Right now, they have to do so. Stand up and draw that line in the sand and tell the Supreme Court where they can put it. That's what we have to do. Pass the amendment to restrict the Kansas Supreme Court on this decision-making. Fight it, ignore it, make sure they do not bully you in any way, shape, or form there. 316-721-8255 coming up in just about, 6 or 7 minutes. Congressman Ron Estes is going to be joining us as he's finally back in the Wichita area, I believe, and he has been, he's going to talk about the government shutdown and what's next when it comes to the immigration debate and what we can look forward to from the next couple of weeks with the budgetary debates. We'll talk with Congressman Ron Estes here in just a few minutes, so we'll take a little bit early break here shortly. But I do want to give you an update along with the state legislature on some of the things they've been working on. I got notification that as of today, here's my call to action for today. Today, it sounds like they are going to be drafting a resolution in the state Senate for the Article 5 Convention of States. And we've talked with Mark Meckler many times. We've talked with many local chapters of the Article 5 movement. We've talked with Jim DeMint when he was in the show before the end of the year. We've talked with great individuals about this Article 5, and I am a strong supporter of the Article 5 Convention of States. I don't think that's the only way to start fixing things, but that is a huge way, and we should get on board with that. Being able to restrict the federal government, being able to convene as states the way the Constitution has allowed us to convene, to put term limits on these individuals, to actually put the spending increases at bay by the states' imposition over the federal government, and so on and so forth. It's a great movement that we must get on board with. Many states have done so already, and it's a little upsetting the fact that we are a deep red Republican state and we have not passed an Article 5 conventions yet. We've talked to a few different legislators, and they were just like, I don't know a whole lot about this. I just don't know it. I don't understand it. I'm concerned that it might run rampant, that it might be abused, and we're a little concerned. Which I would then respond to say, if you get 3/4 of these states to actually convene, I doubt that you're going to run rampant because we're not going to be able to agree on anything. But we can try, and that's the point. So my call to action today is to strongly urge you to call your state senators when you get a chance. Call them, email them, social media them, whatever you end up doing. Call your state senators. Let them know to support the Article 5 Convention of States. Now, there will be a rally as well on February 15th with Mark Meckler, the head of the National Convention of States movement. He's going to be speaking in Topeka on February 15th, and that's another big rally and a really great point as well. So I'll give you more information as that gets a little bit closer, but right now the resolution's being drafted. Senate President Susan Wagle has approved it, is looking for the co-sponsors of it, and now is the time for us to stand up and say, hey, let's start moving forward in that direction. So that's the big movement. Let's get on board with it. Let's make sure it happens. This is the time that you and I make those phone calls and become the activists that we need to be. Let's take an early break. When we come back, we'll have Congressman Ron Estes with us on the trail as he talks about the government shutdown and what's been happening in Washington, D.C. over the last week or so and what to look forward to in the coming weeks in Washington, D.C. This is the Voice of Reason on KQAM. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Happy pre-Friday celebration. You're almost there. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's carpe diem. Let's make it a good one. It's going to be so great today. You're going to get tired of being so great, in the words of President Donald Trump. Welcome back in. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's get right to our guest. I love having him on the program. Great personal friend, great friend to the show as we talk about the government shutdown. It's from the 4th Congressional District, Congressman Ron Estes on the line with us. Congressman, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Andy?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. It is a beautiful morning here in Wichita, and we are intrigued by the fun shenanigans happening up in Washington, D.C. How's it been for the first government shutdown up there?
You know, it was truly an experience in seeing some reasonable dysfunctionality. You know, when you talk about dysfunctionality in government, we proposed. I mean, the House Republicans passed through the House a good continuing resolution. Now, I'm not a fan of continuing resolutions. We need to do a full year's appropriation, but
sure.
What we're trying to get through was have enough time to adjust the budget caps, particularly to help our military. We need to get more training dollars and more money for spare parts so we can get all of our military equipment operating. And so we were going through negotiations. We thought we were moving in a good direction. So basically, we said let's do a 4-week continuing resolution till February 16th, which had no poison pills in it at all. It was all things that Democrats said they supported, whether it was funding at the current levels, funding CHIP, the Children's Health Program, for 6 years, and also extending some of the moratorium on some of the Obamacare taxes that Democrats had put in place before. And so there wasn't anything to fight against, but they basically decided to oppose something they didn't really oppose. And what we saw was the hashtag shutdown. And,
sure.
They got into the mess, and I think they got to the point where they couldn't figure out how to get out of it without getting upset or losing face. And so that's why I just got into a 3-day shutdown, which was silly.
Well, we're into the position now that we've done the big tax cuts before the end of the year, which was fantastic, and now we're seeing the boom from that. The next step that we all looked forward to was doing the budget reform. And as you said, breaking it back down to appropriations bills as opposed to the big lump sum bill, which we need to start doing again. We can start looking at where we can start saving money, where we can start cutting. And that's the next big thing. What was unfortunate about all of this is that all of a sudden we start talking about the shutdown, not because of a budgetary issue and them saying, we don't like you cutting money, which I know they're going to do eventually, but it was because of, hey, you need to include amnesty for DACA recipients into this budgetary bill or we're going to shut down the government. I just don't understand how they were to link point A to point B here and say, we're going to halt a budgetary bill for extending it for another month or 4 weeks because you didn't include DACA amnesty. Where did that come from?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. There wasn't a leak. It was just political posturing. They knew that it was good common sense approach, and they didn't want to have Republicans certainly didn't want under President Trump's presidency to have common sense successful things happening without a lot of turmoil. And so basically they brought in the so-called DACA fix as an issue to address, and when it and made it an artificial deadline that had to be done right now when in reality there's no pressure at all until March, and then that's even a soft deadline there. I mean, look, I want immigration reform, and I think we've got a good compromise bill that we're starting to work through on the House on immigration reform, but we needed to keep the government funding. We shouldn't do these silly things like we had National Guards folks that traveled on their own expense to their guard units on Friday night, and then at 11 p.m. we're told to go home. And some of them travel great distances, and in fact, some of them that are from out of state that are based with in-state units had to fly. I mean, they had to fly on their own cost, and so it's just a shame that we put the American people through that.
Sure. Well, first off, we do want to thank you, and I know it's a small gesture. I know it's a small thing, but it still goes a long way between you and Congressman Kevin Yoder and Congresswoman Lynn Jenkins and everybody that I did see the letter saying that you were going to halt your pay for the time during the government shutdown. So we appreciate that. It's the small gesture, but it does go a long way. Now that the government is open, we saw the Democrats where, as you mentioned, I mean, it was the political posturing. They were kind of stuck in that bad place. They came out of this one damaged. I mean, one thing that the Republicans had not been able to do for a really long time during a shutdown is brand it as the fault of the Democrats, which it was, but actually make people believe that with the hashtag Schumer shutdown. They came out of it with absolutely nothing. Do they feel empowered to try this again if we go into 2 weeks later and we don't have an immigration resolution yet, or do you think they're going to try something again?
Well, here's the sad part is I'm fearful they're going to try it again because we had 4 weeks, which would allow us. I mean, we're not in voting session this week, so we'll be back next week. So going to February 16, which was what's our original date, would have given us 3 weeks back to actually work on coming to an agreement. Now they wanted to put their stamp on it. They wanted to make it even better, so they said let's use the February 8th date. So now that's just taken a week out of the process. So I'm fearful we're going to get back into the same type of discussion on February 8th around this. One thing that you need to make sure that we talk about is I'm supportive of immigration reform. I mean, we've got to do a lot. There's a very good compromise bill that we're working through on the House, the Goodlatte-McCall bill that Chairman Goodlatte's chairman of the Judiciary Committee and Chairman McCall's chairman of Homeland Security. So they're basically built a bill that addresses those 4 things that President Trump was negotiating with the House and the Senate on before this whole Schumer shutdown debacle. Mm-hmm. And basically it looks at the so-called DACA fix. And what it does is it allows legal residency for those DACA individuals who were brought here illegally as children, as long as they obey the law, as long as they don't get involved in criminal drug act or criminal gang activity. But it doesn't give them a special path to citizenship. They can apply for citizenship, but they have to follow the same route that everybody else does. They don't get to jump ahead of the line. It provides the second pillar is for border security. It provides funding for the wall, for the parts of the border that it makes sense to have a wall, but that's not the entire border. And it allows electronic surveillance, hires more border patrol agents, allows us to have some things like drones to check from the sky and tunnel detection system for people to try to tunnel under the wall. And then the third point is chain migration. It doesn't allow somebody that comes in to the country to bring everybody and their family in. It only allows somebody to bring their spouse and their minor children, so that we don't have the whole extended family that comes in because one person gets citizenship.
Come on, great grandpa needs to come in too, I tell you.
Yeah, well, and they can go through the process, and they're very welcome. We're a country of immigrants, and people ought to be able to come through that process, but they don't get a guaranteed free ride because one person did.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth thing is this visa lottery program, this free ride that some people from some countries get just because they wanted to have a quota from different countries. And the one that's been, 2 of the last 3 terrorist attacks have been for people that come in on this visa lottery. So once they're in that program. So I think that's a good common sense compromise of how do we address what's fair and reasonable, but also puts in place that people don't get to jump the line just because they were their parents may have broken the law to get them in here.
Sure. And that sounds really good. I mean, overall, it sounds pretty decently. We got about 2.5 minutes left. So I want to focus on that part real quick with the DACA part, because I know that's been kind of the focal attention and the talking point as of lately. So this would give them really like a green card, a legal status of saying you can be here for now, but you're not a citizen. We're not going to give you amnesty, but it gives you an opportunity to stay here while you're going through the process. Is there an expiration on it if they continuously don't try to get citizenship, or is it just indefinite? I mean, how is that going to work?
What it would be is it would be what we've proposed is it would be a 3-year, but basically automatically renewable as long as they're maintaining good status as residents of the United States. And so, they don't get involved in criminal activity in that, which would yank their qualifications. But basically, it would be an automatically renewable legal residency. And the thinking there is, we have such a wide range of people. There's 690 people that have qualified for this DACA program, 690,000. And they range in all ages from, they were brought here as babies to that came as 16 and 17-year-olds. And obviously some of the very younger ones, have no other knowledge of where their parents' home country was. And so we want to make sure that recognition that they've had a long time that they've lived here, we want to make sure that at least give them the opportunity to continue that residency, but that they have to live up to obligations as well, that they have to maintain good status within the country.
Congressman Ron Estes, we got about 30 seconds left before we got to let you go. It sounds like a great bill. The question is, the comments made from Chuck Schumer the last couple of days on the Senate side saying that they want to pull the funding from the wall and they don't want that. Donald Trump said, if you do that, no wall, then no DACA. The bill that you guys had that sounds relatively nice, do you think that would get through the Senate?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I think there's several people in the Senate that want to have their name on a bill. And so there's, they paired up Republicans and Democrats and have several bills that are floating through. And I don't know any of those that'll pass. I think we need to just get through some common sense approach and not go to this a guaranteed citizenship for people just because their parents illegally brought them in here.
Exactly. Well, maybe we'll look at the same kind of situation we did with the tax cut where we had to have the 2 bills and then come to the joint committee and work it out. Congressman, it's always an honor to talk to you, my friend. Keep up the fight, and we'll look forward to chatting with you again here real soon.
All right, great. Thank you, Andy.
Always a pleasure there. That's Congressman Ron Estes from the 4th Congressional District. Bottom of the hour news. We'll talk about that when we come back. Your thoughts and calls. This is The Voice of Reason.
Patriotism is alive and well. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM along with KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Happy Thursday morning. Pre-Friday celebrations have begun. It's time for us to be excited about it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, thanks again to Congressman Ron Estes for joining the show in that last segment.
Told me to work out a deal with the White House. The White House said work it out with Republican leaders on the Hill. Separately, President Trump turned away from not one, but 2 bipartisan compromises.
Mm-hmm.
Each would have averted this shutdown. Mm-hmm. Each would have led to a deal on the budget and health care and disaster aid and things like opioids and veterans and pensions. and on immigration. My recent offer to the president was a generous one. I put his signature campaign issue on the table in exchange for DACA, and still he turned away. President Trump's unwillingness to compromise caused the Trump shutdown and brought us to this moment. Now, it's a shame, Mr. President, that the American people and the Senate have had to endure such hand-wringing, finger-pointing stridency to secure a guarantee that we will finally move to address this urgent issue. It is something the majority could have avoided entirely, a concern the president could have obviated if he were only willing to take yes for an answer.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's all the Republicans' fault for not willing to compromise. Remember what the compromise means to Democrats. That means giving up everything that you believe in order to abide by what they want, because that's the way that they operate. We just talked with Congressman Estes about the bill. Now, I have trouble with this because I've heard many Republicans and even some other talk show hosts mentioning the fact that, well, we need to be able to compromise. We need to understand that the DACA recipients are not going anywhere. They're not going to be leaving. We're not going to be deporting them. That is part of the negotiation. And if we're going to compromise, that's what we have to compromise on, which I have trouble with because I don't understand why having 20 years of being an illegal alien, knowing you're an illegal alien and not rectifying that in 20 years, having a family and all of a sudden saying, oh, why you turned me apart from my family, is all of a sudden now an issue. But we do need to recognize that there will be compromises. There is in politics all the time. Now, the bill that the House is drafting right now, and what the brief explanation that Congressman Ron Estes just gave us, and we got some calls lining up to talk about this, is I think was probably the best that we're going to have right now. It's giving the funding for the wall. It's beefing up major support for law enforcement on the border, for the tunnels, for the wall, making sure no one comes through that way. It does everything we want it to do. The only question that I have that sounds like it's part of the negotiation, which is about the best negotiation that we're going to get, is that it's going to give the DACA recipients legal status. It's not going to give them citizenship, and that's the big key factor. It's going to give them legal status. They have to renew it every 3 years. If they do not so, then they could get in trouble potentially that way, but as long as they keep a clean slate of a record from their criminal record and they don't do anything criminally, then they can be here kind of like a work visa or a status visa, whatever you want to call it, getting rid of the lottery visa, which is the most absurd thing I've ever heard of in the world, but being able to keep them here as a legal status. Now, the key factor about this that the Senate's not going to like is under just a legal status and not a citizenship, you will still not be able to vote. And that's the whole point the Democrats want for this amnesty, to give them citizenship and to allow them to vote. So that's about the best compromise I think that we could possibly have. It could potentially go through the House, probably not going to go through the Senate. Rick Everett in studio here with us as well. What do you think on all this?
Well, you stole a little bit of my thunder, because as you were coming into this segment, I've been thinking about this for a few days now. How hot on the trail of the Dreamers, how hot on the trail of DACA would the Democrats be if the Republicans somewhat acquiesced and said, okay, you know what? DACA, the Dreamers, they can all stay, but they will never have the right to vote.
And that's what they have. Now, they can apply, and this is where I agree. If they try to rectify the situation the way that they should have done for the last 20 years as a dreamer, quote unquote, which I hate that word because that implies that they're dreamers and that they have dreams and that none of us have any dreams because we're just idiots. But they imply that if they have legal status, they can still apply for citizenship. They get in the back of the line. They go through the process. They're here with a quote-unquote visa card. They are a legal resident. They are not a citizen, and that's the compromise that I'm willing to have, and that's about as far as I'm willing to compromise on that situation in any way, shape, or form. I think the House bill, from the brief description that Congressman Estes gave us, is probably the best deal that we're going to get. It funds everything that we want to, and we compromise a little bit on the DACA, not saying that, hey, sorry, you need to leave the country and then come back properly, but we're going to give you legal residence, and then you can apply for citizenship if you'd like to, but under a legal residence does not mean that you get to vote. Now the Democrats are, of course, going to try and abuse that and try and have them vote illegally because that's just what Democrats do. But at the same time,
Andy, it's such an accusation.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean that. What is that? Yeah. But I think this is the best compromise that we're going to get. And I think that we should support something like that. We should encourage our congressmen and women to support this bill if that's what comes out to be the final draft in the House. The question is it going to go to the Senate? Of course not. We have too many activists in the Senate. We have Chuck Schumer. We have Nancy Pelosi in the House. We have Chuck Schumer. We have many activist progressives who are going to want that legal status or that citizenship, not just legal status, but citizenship in order for them to vote. It's not going to go anywhere, but at least the House, it sounds like the House is actually coming out with a somewhat reasonable bill. 316-721-8255. Got some calls lining up. Let's go right to them, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Jim, good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm just doing great.
Good.
I always enjoy listening to the Congressman Estes.
Absolutely.
It occurred to me the other day that what we need to do is, then you're correct, that we need to give them legal status so we can keep track of them and follow their criminal record if they have one.
Well, here's the thing, though, Jim. I'm not a fan of that personally. I don't like that, but that's about as far as I'm willing to compromise on it.
Let me finish my sentence. We legal status so we can follow them. And then I think I came up with this simple, real quick way to screen out the ones we want to leave.
Sure.
If on the front bumper of their truck it has a Mexican flag or a Paraguayan flag or a Brazilian flag, they have to leave right away.
I don't mind if they're proud of their country. I mean, I've thought about, different stickers or tattoos, and I may get an Irish flag just because I have an Irish heritage. That doesn't mean that I don't care for my country here as well. I don't mind that they are proud of their nationality. They just need to remember that they are in the United States. They're not in whatever country they came from, and that if they are going to be here and they want to stay here, then they have to realize the priorities of, this is my country first, then my nationality, the way that I view it.
I'm an American. The flag on their truck is a good indication. I mean,
sometimes.
It's like you watch the news, and these people are outside of Senator Schumer's house protesting him because he caved a little bit. And, if Schumer was in Germany in 1939, he would have been a trustee in the prison camps.
Oh, I'm sure. He would have been a nice little marching boy there. Jim, I appreciate it. It's an interesting comment. I guess you could look at it that way, but I guess that goes into the profiling as well, which I'm not a fan of. And look, I'm not wanting to harm anybody on their nationality or attack anybody for their nationality in any way, shape, or form. I'm proud to be Irish. I'm proud to be German to an extent. I'm proud of whatever nationalities else that I have. I'm proud of that because that's who I am. That's part of me, but that's not me. I'm an American first. But that doesn't mean that, it's, for those of you that do know, and some of you may have seen it, some of you may not, but I have an American flag tattoo on my arm. And I've thought about what to do on the other side because, obviously I have to be symmetrical here, and I've thought about doing an Irish flag over here just because I'm proud of my heritage. That's what I am. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the profiling based on the flag, although I do get your point on a lot of them hold it up and wave it so proudly that they're more proud of that one than they are of the American flag while they're living in the United States. And I take that point very much so. I appreciate that. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Eddie, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. I have a question for
Sure.
you, and it's really kind of a serious question, too. How long does this country have to exist before Americans are Americans on their own? Why do we always have, and I'm not knocking you, believe it, because I'm Welsh, okay? But I'm not knocking, but why does everybody have to be Mexican, Italian, Russian, Germany? Why can't, and this is what I miss the most, why can't we just be plain Americans?
Have you ever heard the quote from John Wayne, the nice monologue of him talking about hyphenated Americans? It is.
No, yes, I think I have, but you know what? I'm an American. My mother's American. My grandmother, well, I got to watch it. My grandmother was a Welsh, but
No, but I get your point. When we are here, that's the beauty of America. We are the melting pot of the world. You may have come from Mexico or from Ireland or from Asia or from Vietnam or wherever. It doesn't matter. When you're here and you've sworn in and you say that you're proud to live in the United States and you have your citizenship or you have your legal status and you don't want to be anywhere else in the world because you understand the greatness of this nation, and then you meet somebody else that may be a completely different heritage from you historically, and then you see them and you start a family and you've blended. This is the melting pot of the world. We mix so many cultures and traditions and holidays and religions and everything together that we are no longer the hyphenated wherever we came from. We are an American, and we should be proud of that.
Are you aware, and I read this History Channel, but in a few more years, the true Italian in Italy is going to be the minority race.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Actually, I just saw a story that in Germany now, the number one most popular name in Germany now is Mohammed. Because so many refugees have flooded into Germany that there are now more individuals named Mohammed in Germany than there are actual German names, and it's an interesting concept to think about when you see how many people are flooding in.
But I'm just tired of the United States being like a cattle pen, and everybody just you herd in here. Okay, you're nobody now. You're just an immigrant.
Yep.
Well, I'm sick and tired of that. My gosh, we've been through World War I, World War II, all these others. We have a beautiful, rich history.
Sure.
And just why can't we just be Americans?
God, that's a great point. Eddie, I love it. I appreciate the call very much. And it really drives home the point of the DACA recipients. And if you've been here illegally for 20 years, I want to take a little bit harsher tone, but I understand this is politics and we have to compromise. And when we compromise, a real compromise, a legitimate compromise, means that we both give a little bit. And the Democrats right now, we should be giving less because we're in the majority in both chambers, remind you. So therefore, we should be compromising a little bit less than the Democrats, which they're not used to, which is why we're probably going to see another government shutdown in a week and a half, 2 weeks. That's just the reality of it. I like the bill from what it sounds like coming out of the House. I like it. I'm not a huge fan of the DACA part of it. I think we should be a little bit tougher, but if that's what we're going to compromise because that's their meat and potatoes, then fine. You know what? You're not going to vote. You're going to get legal status. You can start at the back of the line for your citizenship, but until then, you can stay here. We're not going to deport you, but you'll be a legal resident, and you're not going to vote, which the Democrats are going to fume about. Your thoughts on this? Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, sir. It's Drew.
Drew, how are you, sir?
Amazing.
Good.
Hey, 2 quick points. You just hit on one of them. While it is possible we could go ahead and round up everyone that's illegal and toss them out. Eisenhower did it. People say, "Oh, you can't just do." No, Eisenhower did it, and it didn't work out well.
Sure.
So you just hit the biggest point on this one. Okay, is that yes, we're working out a path, but what we're not doing is what the Democrats have been after, which is to hand over Florida, California, Ohio, and Illinois.
Sure.
Because and New Mexico. Because if you just automatically granted amnesty, and by the way, Schumer was offering the same deal that they offered Reagan back, and then screwed Reagan with.
Sure.
So I don't think we need to take it a second time. So yeah, this is going to be a way to work towards a solution without giving the Democrats their big goal of
here's the amnesty, and here's a bunch more citizens,
and a permanent hold on the government with all those new citizens.
Right.
So the second point, though, is we need to address, and we can't do it. We can't do it. Trump's going to have to be the one to do it. Is that in order to get some of this all to work, we have got to massively reform the judiciary.
Sure.
It is stocked full to the brim of Obama judges. And these judges don't care about the law. And they've shown again and again and again that they're more than willing to take a person's immigration status into effect when, putting their thumbs on the scale. We've got departments that are still full. So that's something that's going to have to be taken care of. And I don't know how that'll be addressed, but someone's going to have to look at it and say, okay, we need to clear house in the judiciary.
Well, it's going to be an ongoing battle, and you're absolutely right. We need the judiciary. We need the reform from the judicial branch from the state level all the way up to the federal level and every circuit court in between, because that's really that's going to fix it. That's going to make or break a lot of these decisions. They already tried to ban or block at least some of the travel bans that President Trump put in place. That's luckily been reversed for now by some courts. But we need to stop looking at the judiciary and saying, oh, well, they're the black robes people. They must know everything about it. And as soon as they say their word, then that's the word, that's the gospel, and therefore we should follow it. I'm not a big fan of that. And we need to remember the proper role of the separation of powers when it comes to government at the state level and the federal government. And we need to start some reforms across the board. Great point, Drew. Appreciate it. Got to take one more break. Wrapping up hour number 2. Hour 3, the man himself. It's the end of the month. Phil Martinez of Phil's Coins is going to be joining us. Looking forward to chatting with him in just a few minutes. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Wrapping up hour number 2. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Coming up in hour number 3 in just a minute here, Phil Martinez, the man himself from Phil's Coins, as he does the last Thursday of every month, going to be joining us this hour. The Voice of Reason has been brought to you by the Kansas Republican Assembly. They have their weekly meeting, and it's tonight. You're not going to want to miss it. It's at 7 o'clock at the Golden Corral in the West Meeting Room, 616 South of Ridge Road, right near Eisenhower Airport. It's very easy to find. Go to Golden Corral, have some dinner, learn about what's happening in the city. The half-hour social special is starting at 6:30. You can go there, have the social, enjoy, chat with everybody. And then the guest speaker, they always have their speaker tonight, John D'Angelo from the city is going to be joining, talking about Century 2 and what's going to happen with it. Are they going to knock her down? Are they going to build upon it? Are they going to expand it? Are they going to anchor it? What are they going to do with Century 2? What's the plan? I know that's been a big talking point for a while in the city, and they're curious to see. So check it out tonight. Kansas Republican Assembly, 7 o'clock tonight. Golden Corral, West Meeting Room, 616 South Ridge. Chat with John D'Angelo, hear him speak, ask questions on the future of Century 2. Appreciate those guys partnering up with us. We got about a minute left before the top of the hour, so let's go to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. Nope, I guess we lost one. Let's try it again, shall we? 721-8255-721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name?
Wallace from Salina.
Wallace, what's going on, sir? You got about 45 seconds. Go for it.
Yeah, real quick. So is this a proposal that you were just talking about on letting DACA people stay, but
It is the bill drafted. I don't know if you heard it, but at 7:15 we talked with Congressman Ron Estes, and it is the bill that's being crafted in the House side right now, where we will be getting rid of there was 4 points to it. He mentioned getting rid of the lottery visa. We would be actually fully funding the wall. We would be fully funding any type of law enforcement and ICE enforcement at the border. But then the one compromise that they were working on was, instead of booting out all of the DACA recipients, it would be giving them legal status, not citizenship, but giving them legal status for 3 years and allowing them to apply for citizenship. And that was the compromise that the House has come up with so far.
Well, here would be my problem with that. And it comes down to, you can't, whatever laws they pass now, if the Democrats get a hold of it, you're going to allow these people to stay, and we're not going to get anything else, because the Democrats will undo everything that's done. You can't force the next president to keep the border secure.
Oh, that's true, and that's the concern to have, and I appreciate that, Wallace, and especially with Chuck Schumer coming out saying, no, we're not going to fund the wall, and Trump saying, well, no wall, then no DACA reform, and that's about as far as I'm willing to compromise on the DACA recipients. We'll see where it goes, because the Senate's not going to like it. Hour number 3 coming up. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, man, what a day it's been. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3. The Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, along with KGPT TV, channel 2610 on the InfoWars Network. Welcome aboard wherever you may be watching, listening. We love having you here. Good Thursday morning. It's a pre-Friday celebration, which means, well, come on, you can already start your weekend early. What do you say? Let's carpe diem. Let's make it a good one today and then just coast through the rest of the weekend. 316-721-8255. We're going to shift gears just for a minute here. We'll get back to some of the immigration, the DACA, and the House bill that Congressman Estes had laid out for us in the last hour in just a bit. But it's that time of the month, of the week, of the month. It's the last Thursday of the month, as we always love to do. From Phil's Coins, 9344 West Central Avenue, it's the man himself, Phil Martinez, in studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
It's great to have you back here. How is the beginning of 2018?
It's there.
It's there.
I mean,
we're just coasting along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buried as usual.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
After the tax cuts that happened at the end of the year, we have seen the economy begin to boom. I mean, we've already seen record closings for the stock market and the economy slowly coming back. We're seeing unemployment rates begin to drop again. We're seeing things starting to do well again. Is that affecting the gold and silver market?
Not really. I mean, basically, apparently I don't know why, but for probably the last 4 months, I'd say 4, maybe 5. Right now, there's more people selling in a down market. There's more people selling than buying.
You mentioned that really almost the last 3 months that you've been in here, that they've been selling. No, the buying for whatever reason just isn't there.
Yeah. I had some guy come in the other day and had a gold eagle, and I told him what we'd pay for it, and he goes, it's not even spot. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, I used to pay spot plus, and I said, now I'm buying spot less. And he goes, well, I think I'll just keep it. I said, that's fine. I have no problems with that because, to be quite honest with you, I don't need it.
Sure.
I have more than I know what to do with.
Sure.
And he goes, really? And I said, yeah. I said, now you realize that everybody's selling and nobody's buying. And I said, and if you ship it to any of the big boys, I said, some of these guys are paying 98% of melt or something like that. I said, there's companies out there, big companies, that offer you less than what I just offered you. And he goes, oh. And so I went back to doing whatever I was doing, and I turned around. He's still standing in the center of the floor. And I said, something else I can help you with? And he goes, well, now that I know the whole thing about how this is, I'll just go ahead and sell it.
Just go ahead and sell it.
So
it's so wild.
Yeah. So sometimes they come in and go, well, I'm not gonna sell it for this. I mean, in the last 10 days, I've had we quoted over $100,000 on one gold deal, and I got another guy, and I got a guy that was 2 days, well, I guess 3 days before that was talking about selling $100,000 worth of gold. So
really?
I mean, and I've actually got a collection coming in from the middle of Missouri.
Why do you think it's a selling market right now? When you said the prices are low, still for silver, people would be buying it when it's low. I mean, what's the price of it right now?
Silver took us about a 50, 60 cent jump yesterday.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest jumps we've seen in a long time. Gold went up like $30.
Okay.
So they were,
but we're still floating around, what, like $17 for silver?
We were at $17.50 yesterday. $17.50 to $17.60, and gold was $13 in the 1380s, I believe. So we're pushing $1,400 gold, which is the first time we've seen that in a long time.
But it's still lower. I mean, when I was, and I haven't done it in a while, I need to get back in there, but I remember the last coin that I bought for silver, the 1 ounce, was over the summer, and it was at 18. Well, now we're still floating at $17.50, $18. I mean, we're right around that low
right
range.
now, if you buy a silver round, you're going to pay almost $20.
Sure.
But the markets are at $17.50.
Right, exactly.
So, if you paid 18, that's back when silver was in the 15, 50, 16 class. So technically, Man,
do you think people would be buying it up? Why do you think they're selling?
It's just, and it's not just Wichita, it's everywhere. I had a guy call me one day and he goes, I haven't heard from you in a long time. And I said, yeah. And he says, is there a problem? And I said, well, yeah, the way you guys treated me. I said, hell, I don't have to take that. I said, I took my business somewhere else. And he goes, oh God, what did we do? And he said, because we want your business back. And I said, and I started laughing, and I said, you guys haven't done anything. I said, what kind of problems have you got? And he said, well, we're buying so much stuff, we can't even put it all in the safe. He said, we're throwing we're throwing a blanket over it at night when we go home to make it look like cardboard boxes.
Wow.
And I said, can't get it all in the safe, huh? And he goes, yeah. And I said, see, I have exactly the same problem you do. I am buying so much of it. I don't need to buy anything from you because I'm buying it off the streets.
Right.
I mean, we've had a sale on the shop for like eagles and stuff, especially eagles and maple leafs. we've had a sale price on for probably the last 6 months.
Wow.
And I mean, some guy the other day come in and he says, "What can you sell me eagles for?" And I told him, and he goes, "Well, that's a good price." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I want to buy 1,500. So I called my supplier to see what they're doing. I said, "Well, I can get them for you for $3.18 over spot." I lost a deal over 18 cents.
Wow.
But he goes, "Well, you can sell them to me for $3 over spot now, but if I buy them 1,500, I'm going to have to pay $3.18. You know, different. I bought these off the street,
right?
Which means I'm into them for less than what I would have to pay this guy."
Sure.
I said, "Actually, I'm making less money buying these things and selling them in volume." But right now, there's a lot of surplus out there. I mean, I got a guy that called the other day, and he was wanting some. He said, "Man, if I could get 3 over spot, I'd be tickled." Well, I was able to sell them to him for $2.75 over spot and volume. And I called the other day and bought some, and I quoted some yesterday, and I could get them for him for if he bought 500, I get him for him for $2.65 over spot.
So wild.
And I mean, at one time they were almost $2.60. The government was almost charging that over spot for them. So I mean, it's just these guys are buying them off the street, and they're got surplus. And I didn't call the owner. If I called the owner, I might be able to get another dime or 15 cents cheaper. But
sure.
Right now. But we do manage. I mean, everything we buy, we do manage to sell. I mean, it is going out right now. I could actually use 500 or 1,000 backdate eagles that I could discount.
Sure.
2018s will be here today or tomorrow.
So certain things that you're looking for, but surplus in other areas.
Yeah. I mean, here 3 months, probably 3 months ago, I had the biggest one of the biggest inventories and nice coins that I've had. My boxes hold probably 350 coins, and I had 3.5 boxes of good stuff. I mean, better, higher grade, better condition stuff, and 90 days later, I'm down to 2.5 boxes, which means that's 350. I'm technically right now, and I'm buying coins. I mean, at 4 people on counter, we bought coins and scrap gold all day yesterday with 4 of us there.
Sure.
And we were behind. But at the same time, I am selling. I mean, I had a dealer come in from Kansas City, Kansas, drove all the way down here to buy coins from me yesterday. And I mean, right now, and that's all he paid. He didn't buy a lot of expensive stuff, but he bought a lot of common stuff that it's just not out there.
Sure.
And so, I mean, right now, I can't buy enough good coins to keep up with the demand.
Right. That's wild.
I mean,
it's such an interesting, like you mentioned, such an interesting market. You think with the prices low and for how long they've been staying low,
yes.
Even with the fear of the end of the year of it going up really, really high potentially, is what we were talking about back in the spring last year, that it's still low and then people are just not wanting to buy it up. I don't get it. But you said some are moving out a little bit, but it's more the common stuff than any kind of specialties.
Oh, yeah. The other day I had a guy come in and he had a complete set of Mercury dimes, which a complete set we don't see very often. Had a 16D and it actually had a 41 over 42 in it, which and never see a 41 over 42 in a set. Most books don't even have a hole for it. But I caught it, thank God. And so I told the guy, I said, "Well, I think the books were $650, and we're talking, and so he's getting ready to go out the door, and something was said about one of my competitors, and I said, okay. And then the guy stopped and he goes, "Yeah," he said, I had that book over to your competitor. And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "They offered me silver for it." He said, "They offered me $65. And we bought the book for $650. And I said, Did they just miss did they just miss the expensive coins? I mean, there were 2 coins over $200 in that set.
Jeez.
And he goes, "I don't know where they missed them or they don't know," but he says, "They offered me silver and told me they were doing me a favor."
Wow.
And I said, "Whoa." So,
well,
I mean,
you made him happy.
Oh, yeah. And then
you made him happy.
And then he had a book of Indian pennies and a book of Lincolns, but I think he inherited them from his dad, and I think they've all been cleaned.
Sure.
I mean, they still, but even that, they were still worth $550 to $600 a book. So here's $1,200 tied up in low grade stuff that I'm going to have to discount to sell. I mean, there's no way I'm going to sell it even at wholesale rates. I'm going to have to discount it 20 or 30% below that.
Sure. Very interesting. Let's go ahead and take a break here. 17 minutes past the hour. 721-8255, 721-TALK. If you have any questions on silver or gold, it's Phil's Coins, 9344 West Central Avenue. Phil Martinez here as we do the last Thursday of every month. When we come back, we're going to have to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the political things that are happening, along with the economy and how things are picking up. And also, I don't know if you heard the story or not of the wig shop in town.
Yeah.
That where the owner had the gun.
We were laughing about it yesterday. We were laughing about it yesterday.
There it is. We'll talk about that when we come back as well, because I know you guys supposedly carry some protection on yourselves as well.
What do you mean supposedly? I got one on now. I'm here with you. I can't tell what's going to happen.
Don't know what's going to happen here on The Voice of Reason. It's always an interesting time. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, 23 minutes past the hour. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. It is a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebration continues right here on The Voice of Reason. 721-8255, 721-TALK. Phil Martinez of Phil's Coins in studio, 9344 West Central Avenue. You are closed on Mondays. You're open at 9:30 today. Make sure to check it out. And obviously, as you mentioned, the surplus of the inventory. So really, whatever anybody may be looking for, silver or gold-wise, you probably have it in stock. Kind of, sort of, maybe.
You know, like Eagles, I'm out of, but I get my 1,000 today, and then I ordered 500 yesterday, so I've got 1,500 coming.
You got some good stuff.
I got in 1,100 2 days ago, but they were already sold before the guy.
I gotta say, I mean, I'm new to this kind of thing, and I just love the stuff that I've been getting when I can. Just the simple silver rounds.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I just love the silver round, just to be able to put it in there and then just say I have silver.
Well, I had a guy come in yesterday, and he goes, he lays lawns and does a lot of lawn work and stuff. Sure. And they're putting down turf right now.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, I just did a job. And I said, oh, really? And he goes, yeah. But he said, I got a big job coming up. I don't have enough money to pay what I've got to have. And he said, so I need some money. And so he sold me $810 worth of 10th ounce gold eagles.
Okay.
And he'd been buying one here and one there. And he goes, he said, I didn't you always told me. But he said, I didn't think about it till I actually needed the money, that if I hadn't come in when I'm working and making a little extra money and bought this, I would have took my wife to lunch. I would have done this. I'd have done that. And now that I need the money, I wouldn't have any money and no way to raise the money.
Sure.
And he said, and all of a sudden, he said, man, this is the best savings account I ever got, because it's not in a savings account. I just can't go, well, honey, let's just move it to the checking account and write a check on it. He said, this is the best savings account. And he said, and I tell everybody,
sure,
this is the way to go. I mean, just like the silver you got. If you and Mama need something, you'll figure out, rather than sell your silver, you'll figure out a way to go out and finance it,
right?
Than to sell your silver, because it actually becomes a possession. It's something you own.
I don't want to sell it right now anyways, because the price is actually lower than what I bought it for right now. So I wouldn't even want to.
That's right. But like I told the guy the other day, I said, you wouldn't sell your car,
right,
to buy 4 new tires.
Exactly.
And he goes, so that's the point, and it works well for a lot of my customers.
Exactly. We mentioned this, teaser right before the break, but the shooting that happened at the wig store, the individual wanted to come in with a toy gun, wanting to try and rob it, and not expecting the fact that the owner or the manager, whoever was there, ended up having a gun, shooting the individual twice. Kind of proves the point that you should probably protect your property.
Yeah, I mean, somebody was in there asking about it somebody in there come in late, and he was, he's sitting there going, I see that woman over there carrying a gun. And you go, yep. And she goes, but she wouldn't shoot anybody with it. And my wife looks at him and goes, oh yeah? She says, you come in here and try to steal my stuff, and you're going to go home with holes in you.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy goes, is she the only one that carries? And Dwayne's saying, I don't know how to tell you this, man, but he said, everybody in here's got a gun on somewhere. And he goes, that guy right there ain't got a gun on. And I slid my gun back around, kind of lifted up my shirt, and he goes, oh, everybody in here does have a gun. And then we got to talking about that, and we're going, a wig shop. How much money could there have been in a wig shop to rob?
I have no idea.
But, and I said, well, but at the same time, he's just like ISIS. He's looking for a soft target. I mean,
sure.
Who would have ever dreamed in a million years that there was somebody carrying a gun in a wig shop?
Same thing with a gas station. I mean, how much money can a gas station have in the register for them to want to rob it? But we see it all the time, and it's whether it's the weak, whether it's the soft, whether you think it's going to be an easy pickings, I don't know, or whether it was someone that was desperate because their family member had cancer and wants to steal a wig. I don't know.
There they are. They're looking for. They're looking for weak targets, soft targets that they can walk in and basically pull a squirt gun and have no, it's not going to happen. Somebody's in there going, well, this guy's going to sue the shop owner, and I thought, wow. And
I saw another video like that on Facebook or online on social media where two individuals tried to rob a convenience store with a fake gun. As a cop's walking by, pulls out his gun, and they start yelling, "It's fake! It's fake! Don't shoot me!" And he said, "Well, mine's not."
Yeah.
And I mean we talk about the Second Amendment all the time on this show and talk about the guns and the importance of that. And you guys obviously have figured that out because you carry your firearms all the time in there. You have precious values that you don't want anyone to take unless they purchase them legitimately, whether it's your home, whether it's your car, whether it's your business. You need to protect yourself because guess what? The sticker on the window is not going to protect you.
That's absolutely right. And I mean, some guy came in the other day, he was looking around and he goes, "I like your sign." And I said, "Which one's that?" And he goes, "The one that says there's nothing worth dying for in here." and it's true. I mean, but there's there is a lot of people out there that are hard up for money. But at the same time, I mean, I'm just like a police officer. Mm-hmm. And this is the philosophy for the shop. We're just like a police officer. When he gets up in the morning, puts a uniform on and goes to work, he's planning on coming home tonight to his family.
Exactly.
Now, if he runs into a bad guy, either he's going home to his family or the bad guy is going home to his family. And unfortunately, I'm on the cop's side. The police officer, should be the one going home to his family because he's the one enforcing the law. And it's the same way in the shop. We're people. We're just going to work and making a living. And if somebody comes in with a gun, our philosophy is that me and my people are going home tonight to our families. And if he don't make it home to his family, he made a really bad choice.
Really bad life choice.
The guy that walked into the wig place, he made a choice. He made a conscious decision. It wasn't like my mind just took over and I just walked in and pulled a squirt gun and decided I was going to rob the place. Mm-hmm. He made a conscious decision. Now, see, he's probably going to sue the owner. I mean, I'm sorry, the mistake he made.
I'm sure they're going to try, absolutely.
Yeah, but I told somebody, I said, man, you don't want me on that jury because he made a conscious decision and he has to pay the consequences of his decision.
Exactly.
Now, if he'd have just walked in and said, "Hey, here I is," and somebody pulls a gun and shoots him, now I've got a problem with that. And at that point, maybe the shop owner needs to pay damages or whatever. But sure. I'm on the shop owner's side.
Well, we're on the side of the law, as crazy as that sounds.
Absolutely.
As crazy as that sounds. Phil Martinez of Phil's Coins. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. 9344 West Central Avenue. 9344 West Central. Open at 9:30 today. You guys got a lot of goodies. It's always great to talk to you, my friend. We'll talk to you again next month.
I enjoyed it. You be safe, be blessed.
Hey, you as well. Always a great time. We'll take one more break, wrapping up the show today. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Right on! Let's do it! Rock that world! Rock that world!
Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the show today. Can you believe it? This show goes by just way too fast. We're having way too much fun. That's just what we do right here on The Voice of Reason.
Told me to work out a deal with the White House. The White House said work it out with Republican leaders on the Hill. Separately, President Trump turned away from not one, but two bipartisan compromises. Each would have averted this shutdown.
It's because we're not going to compromise with terrorists. I mean progressives. 721-8255, 721-TALK. I don't know if you missed the conversation we had with Congressman Ron Estes in the last hour, but laid out the House plan for the immigration reform. Now, it sounds like we're going to go through another shutdown, and they're going to try and blame. Look, I heard some conservatives who are still never Trumpers, which I just don't get, but they were saying, wait a second, we didn't get anything out of this, and Donald Trump made a mistake, and he could have averted this, and it would yada, yada, yada. Look, remember, Donald Trump won that shutdown. For the first time in I don't know how many years, we shut down the government, and we were able to pin it on the Democrats, rightfully so, for actually trying to shut that down because we needed 60 votes in order to pass the budget. They didn't want it because they threw a non-budgetary political issue into the argument of a budgetary extension, and they ended up wanting to shut it down. They thought they had the power, as they always have, because they've gotten too big for their britches. They got too big, and they thought that they had all the power in the world to be able to shut down the government, blame Trump, discredit Trump, attack Trump, and then get everything they wanted for amnesty. That's what they were hoping for, and it didn't work out because the hashtag Schumer shutdown failed miserably. They got zero out of it. Chuck Schumer has been in the hot seat for a while now with illegal aliens after the shutdown because they opened it back up and they got zero. Now, they have 2 weeks to do another budget extension and to do immigration reform. And I mentioned a couple of days ago that it took us 3 months to do the tax cuts. How are we going to do major immigration reform in 2 weeks? How are we going to do it? It's not going to happen. We're going to have to go at least another month or so. The House is going to be easier because we have a large majority of Republicans and conservative Republicans for the most part that are going to be able to do something productive. The Senate, we still have John McCain that's in Arizona getting his treatment, not doing his job, but still holding the seat because he's power hungry like that. And not doing what he needs to be doing. We're down one. We just confirmed the new Democrat from Alabama after the election. Now we're down another one. If you saw with the ambassadorship vote for the confirmation of Governor Sam Brownback yesterday, it was a straight party line vote, 49-49, for both to end the discussion for the cloture and to be able to approve him in the confirmation. And both times, Vice President Mike Pence had to do the casting tie-breaking vote, which means for any bill that comes out of the Senate, we're going to have to get all Republicans on board. And right now, we still have the individuals like Lindsey Graham saying things like this.
To the 700,000 plus DACA kids, we're not going to leave you behind.
Yeah. We're not going to leave you behind. Don't worry. Now, if you missed the interview that we had with Congressman Ron Estes, the House bill sounds like the best negotiation that we're going to be able to get, which is everything that we wanted, except negotiating a little bit on DACA, which I'm not a fan of. Trust me, you know me. I've been very staunch on this position, but we're going to have to compromise somewhere a little bit. And the compromise is that they give them legal status for 3 years with an kind of an auto renewal thing, as long as they don't have a criminal record outside of being here illegally, which is number one on the criminal record. Number two is stealing a Social Security number, so that would be another one if they're actually working. But if they don't do anything else after that and they have the legal status and they don't commit any crimes and they can stay here, if they want to become naturalized citizens, they can get to the back of the line and start the process. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that negotiation because that takes away the entire argument of the Democrats saying, let's give them amnesty, let's give them citizenship, and let's allow them to vote because that's what they want. Now, the Democrats are going to still try it. And I guarantee you this House bill is not going to be able to go pass through the Senate because it's too close of a margin. And the Democrats and a couple of Republicans don't want that type of bill. Chuck Schumer said that we're going to take off the wall negotiation. Donald Trump said, fine, then no DACA. And the funny thing is that all next week, they're not even in a voting session in the House, which means they can't even pass anything from 2 weeks from now. And they're going to literally have 1 week to try and negotiate an entire immigration reform before we shut down the government again. It's not going to happen. Expect another government shutdown in 2 weeks. I'm telling you right now, expect another government shutdown. The Democrats are so adamant about voting on this immigration reform now, fast and furious, make it happen, get everything we want, not let the American people know what we're doing, that they don't care. They just don't care. They're going to shut it down. And I say let them shut it down. They lost the last one. They'll lose this one again. They lost the last one. They have no other leverage. They'll shut it down again. If Chuck Schumer takes away the wall in the negotiation of immigration and he says, oh, we're not going to have the wall, and shut it down. Who cares? One of the comments that I saw on social media was, again, the never Trumper conservative saying, oh, look, Chuck Schumer played us like a fiddle, played Donald Trump like a fiddle. Yeah, he opened up the government again, but guess what? Now he's going to get everything he wants because they're taking away the wall and all the immigration hard stances that the voters of the Donald Trump supporters wanted, and they're going to get nothing. BS. It's not true. Shut it down again. They lost They didn't get anything they wanted. And if they feel like they're emboldened again, shut it down again. We will not compromise. Republicans better not compromise on that and say, fine, you can have whatever you want to. We're going to take away funding from the wall. We're going to take away enforcement. Now, Wallace brought up a really good point last hour in the sense that if we do all of this, we end the chain migration to where it's only the direct family, not the extended family. We get rid of the lottery visa. We build the wall. And then DACA. Those are the 4 points in the House bill that's being crafted right now. And it's a very good bill, in my opinion. Wallace brings up the good point, though. Now, you know what? Once the next administration comes in, and this is the way it's always going to be, I don't know how we can really fix that, but once the new administration comes in 4 years from now, 8 years from now, whatever it may be, once they come in and they can repeal and they start ignoring immigration law again, then we're going to be in the same boat. You're right. We could be, and there's really nothing we can do to stop that. Anything that we do right now, whether it's kicking everybody out or whether it's just sealing it up and locking up and building the wall and sealing up our borders airtight, no matter what we do, the next administration will find a way to repeal it. They'll stop funding it. They'll stop enforcing it. They'll look the other way. There's nothing we can do about that. The only thing we can do is to remain the activists and continue to vote in individuals that are going to continue to enforce that immigration law that we have on the books. That's really the only thing we can do. 721-8255, 721-TALK. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Ron.
Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good until I thought about all this, and I'm extremely perturbed.
Okay.
To say the least. But the big thing that they need to talk about, if they're truly going to do this thing, and is birthright citizenship.
Sure.
Okay, these people, by their admission that they're going to get a green card, is not a citizen of this country.
Exactly.
So that means they're a citizen of whatever country they're illegally here from.
Exactly.
Okay? Now, what they need to do is, number one, treat them just like they do embassies. Any child that's born, unless at least one is an American citizen of the parents, does not automatically become a citizen.
Exactly.
We need to straighten out this birthright citizenship crap, which they've been doing wrong for decades. And the other thing is that Trump keeps saying America first. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this whole thing about this capitulation that's going on, and this we have to be the ones that have to compromise all the time. We've done that since Reagan, and look where it's got us. And that's on both sides of the aisle. That's the Grahams and the Orrin Hutches and the McCains and the Flakes and all these people that's all been around here, you know, including the senators from Kansas that's been up there since they gave amnesty during Reagan's time, you know. And when is Americans going to be first? That's my question.
It's a great question. When are we going to not be the second-class citizens any longer? That's what we need to figure out.
Well, I encourage everybody. Next month is the state convention, and it's being held in Wichita. Do attend and go talk to your senators and the representatives, because they're going to be. That's the Republican convention.
Exactly. That's going to be a big one, and I'm really excited about the Republican convention. We'll have a lot more information on that one very soon as it gets a little bit closer. Ron, I appreciate it. I totally understand the frustrations. I totally get it, and we need to be the priority citizen. We need to be the first-class citizen, not the second-class citizen. Now, I would say when it comes to the birthright citizenship that we do need to address it, absolutely. I almost think that it's going to have to be fought more so on the legal side and the judiciary side than it is going to be in the legislative side. Unless we actually want to create an amendment or a clause to the amendment or something to define exactly what is birthright citizenship and who is allowed to have it and who's not allowed to have it. Because you're right now in the legal system, they're the ones that are telling us that even if you're an illegal alien and you come here and you plop out a kid, that all of a sudden that kid's a naturalized citizen. That's not the case. You have to be abiding by the rule of law and abiding by U.S. law in order to become a U.S. citizen. And that's the purpose of the amendment, of the 14th Amendment, is to say that, you know what, it was to make the slave who's been here for generations to be a U.S. citizen. a legalized, naturalized U.S. citizen because they've been here, they've been abiding by the laws, they were following the laws. If you come here with no recollection of U.S. law, with no recollection of the rule of law, you're breaking the law just by crossing the border illegally in the first place, then you're not abiding by the law, which means if you have a kid, that kid does not all of a sudden fall under U.S. law. That's not the case. It's not supposed to be the case anyways. The legal system has manipulated it to make it look that way, but we need to define that. So I think between maybe a clause or an amendment to the Constitution in that sense from the legislature, but we really need to, as Drew pointed out in the second hour, is that we need to do a reform in the judicial branch, and together we can start addressing that. But one step at a time, my friend, one step at a time. Right now, let's do the immigration reform. Let's push this House bill that's going through right now. Let's try and hold the Senate accountable for their actions, and then we can take the next step after that and start working on natural-born citizens, because I agree it's a huge issue. It is just something that's going to be a lot more difficult to be able to fight. 721-8255. Let's take another phone call. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
My name is Mark.
Mark, how are you, sir?
Fine.
Good.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, my proposal on this DACA issue, which is let's just get real. We're not going to deport 800,000 people or millions of people, however it actually is. Nobody really knows. So we're not going to deport them. So we're going to keep them here. They're going to have to make them feel better about being in America. I don't have a problem with making them legal in some sort of situation as registering and what have you. That's the price my party is going to pay. The price that they need to pay is that they don't get to vote.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get the legal status to vote for years down the road.
Sure.
And I don't think how many people would actually have a problem with that. Make them legal, let them stay, let them pay taxes, let them live in freedom, but they don't get to vote.
Well, and that's really, you make a really good point, and that's really what we've been advocating for here. Is I said, you're right. It's going to be very difficult to just say, you know what, sorry, we're going to deport you all 800,000 or a million plus or however many there may be. We're just going to deport you. It's not going to work. I requested that we give them an X amount of time to say, you know what, let's rectify it. Let's apply towards a student visa or a work visa or start the naturalization process, and we give you 6 months or a year to do that. And then if you don't, if you're still here illegally and we find you through either a work audit or we pull you off the side of the road when you're speeding or whatever the case is, then we deport you in that sense, as opposed to going around and trying to round you up. And that's really what the House bill is discussing right now, is giving them legal residency, not deporting them, but giving them legal residency for 3 years at a time. And I think he even said that there's potential for automatic renewal, but they're not allowed to vote. They will get a social security number or a TIN number or whatever, since they'll be a legal resident, so they can work, because right now they all say that they're contributing to society and working. How'd they get the social security number to apply to work? They stole it from somewhere because they didn't have one as coming here illegally. So give them the TIN number, give them legal residency, but then if they want to become a naturalized citizen to vote and be part of that civic part, then they have to apply for naturalization, and they get to the back of the line and go through the process as everyone else.
Right, and I agree with that. And also, if we could somehow tie that to the wall being built, because if the wall is not complete and or not built, and these people start becoming legal citizens and right to vote, that's another problem.
Sure.
The wall has got to be built. Hands down, we're not gonna cave on that issue. The wall has to be built, or nothing happens with DACA.
Exactly.
And they continue to live in fear, and that we don't have a problem with, and I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with.
Well, except for the Democrats.
If we don't get the wall, right, except for Democrats. If we don't get the wall, they don't get DACA in any way, shape, or form, and that's got to be the line. We voted for Trump. We want the wall. He said he's going to build it, and that's the line. There is absolutely no wavering on that issue whatsoever.
Sure. I completely agree. Mark, I appreciate that very much. You hit it spot on. Yes, let's make sure the wall's there. Let's make sure the enforcement's there. Let's make sure the money's there. I mean, Chuck Schumer tried to take that off the negotiation table, and Donald Trump came back and said, hey, you know what? No wall, no negotiation on DACA, and no wall, no DACA, and that means no negotiation on the DACA, which means right now the bill, like I said, the bill that coming out of the House is the most common sense, reasonable bill that still has everything we want to, except for the straight-up deportation of DACA recipients. And I've been very upset with some of the other conservatives that I've heard from in some sense that say, you know what, just give up on DACA altogether because that's going to be the negotiation. And as long as we want the wall, that's what we have to compromise to some degree. Give them the legal status, fine, but you're not going to vote. You're not going to do part of that quote unquote civic duty. And if you want that, then you got to take the next step. What you should have done 20 years ago by actually applying for a green card or a work visa or a student visa or or naturalization or a marriage visa or whatever the case is, something that you, individual who came here at 10 years old and wasn't your fault, but then turned 20 10 years later and it was your fault all of a sudden and you didn't do anything to rectify it. Now it is your fault. You should have did this 10, 20 years ago. You didn't. We're giving you a second chance. Take it, or else you're going to be in the wrong again, and we're not going to be so lenient next time. Wrapping up the show, one more break. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Wrapping up the show today, just a few minutes left. Here's another thing that they should include, by the way, in that House bill when it comes to DACA. Yeah, give them the legal residency. That's all fine and dandy. I love the legal residency because, you know, that makes them want to partake and want to go through the naturalization process and yada, yada, yada. What we should do as well to really make them think about it, whether we want to or not, is to say no more social programs for them. Some don't need it, which is fantastic. Some do. But that would make that decision very easy for them on whether they want to stay and work and contribute, which I hope they do, or they want to go back to wherever before because it's just not worth it. But no social programs should be included for the dreamers, quote unquote, the DACA recipients that are going to be given legal status. This hour of The Voice of Reason brought to you by the Kansas Republican Assembly. The meeting's tonight. I want to remind you about it one more time tonight. John D'Angelo from the city is going to be at the Kansas Republican Assembly talking about what to do with Century 2. Should Wichita's most loved building be torn down and make a space for a larger convention center? Should they keep it, preserve it, fix it? What should they do? I know it's been a big talking point in the city as of lately. This is your chance to listen, to ask questions, and to give your opinion on it. It's tonight, 7 o'clock, 6:30 is the social. It's at the Golden Corral on the west side of town here, meeting room 616 South Ridge Road, right by Eisenhower Airport. This is your opportunity to have that voice with the Kansas Republican Assembly. Go check it out tonight. John D'Angelo going to be there. 6:30 for the social, 7 o'clock for the dinner, and the meeting at Golden Corral on the west side of town right here. This is your show as always. Loved all the phone calls and conversation. This is time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. That's what we're all about. This is The Voice of Reason. Have a great day, everybody.